in your hood. It tastes like heaven, and we eating pasta and
I just started there.
yeah. We've ended careers before. They call us a lethal weapon. You brandish an unsheathed sword, plain hero Roroni Kenshin. We kicked it aside of your door. You're the one who will get to step in. Where was that bravado you had a hot minute ago? Hey, we got ups, but I wouldn't say we beat. How the saying go, it's a two-way street. Hit me on the pipe and you know they had a tweak. I'm just trying to lay my name, you get what I'm speaking. We entertain the masses and anywhere the weekend. There's some asshole think that he can press the lead and put the whole squad down, get out within the weekend. But we stars, boys, so continue going see. We've ended careers before. They call us a lethal weapon. You brandish an unsheathed sword, plain hero Roroni Kenshin. We kicked it aside of your door. You're the one who will get to step in. Where was that bravado you had a hot minute ago? Talk big game till you learn it ain't one. Got your nails on this track's another freight ton. Not a single dub, so you gotta make one. G, get domino, trying to cook some great stuff.
You can keep ducking, this be the season for hunting. We down and new in our treasures while casually pressing your buttons. You keep pretending and nothing, but we can tell you we frontin'. Try threatening us with a poker, but your face looking all flushed. And we calling out all your bluffs, and we telling you what is left. And we saying enough's enough, but you trying to keep acting tough. If you really think that you run, let me tell you, you ain't the one. Cause the song will be nothing speakers, and the whole team finna pump it, y'all.
We've ended careers before. They call us a lethal weapon. You brandish an unsheathed sword, plain hero Roroni Kenshin. We kicked it aside of your door. You're the one who will get to step in. Where was that bravado you had a hot minute ago? We eating pasta in your hood. It tastes like heaven, and we eating pasta and it good. Yeah.
It's just, oh, it's just when I won't let bury your heart. I feel you're funny, talk about them. Waking up, talk about into my crystal. It's just, oh, it's just when I won't let bury your heart. I feel you're funny, talk about them. Waking up.
One, two, three.
Jump with me, us with me, oh, with me, such fun. Jump with me, us with me, jump, oh, with me,
Great big hit, clean. Lecture on. Great big hit, clean. Music and good times. Great big hit, clean. Lecture on. Great big hit, clean. Music.
Each day.
jump Big bird, just. Great time on Sesame Street.
Also, Pepper Wonder. 2 and 2. P-O-G. His birds. His birds. His birds. Music each day is a duck. It's his birds. His birds. His birds. Music each day is a duck. It's
What do you think?
well, it's not the kind of music that old Willie Shakespeare here used to write.
Oh well. Bye-bye.
Christopher Robin, what exactly is doing nothing?
Well, I'm told it means going along, listening to all the things you can't hear, and not bothering.
When I'm with you, I'm with you. Meanwhile, when I'm with you, I'm with you. Forever and ever, all alone on the moon, and you will always answer. Forever and ever, all alone on the moon.
Listening to all the things you can't hear.
No matter what I do, we together. You should know. No matter what I do, we together. No matter what I do, we together. You should know. No matter what I do, we together. Every star, wherever you every star, and you will always answer. Every star, wherever you every star, find me. When I'm with you, I'm with you.
Being ready is the most important thing ever. Because VTubers are always ready, no matter what.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness. Hello, chat. I forgot to set a goal. I probably should do that. How's everybody doing today? How are you? How is Dama doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Fantastic. Chat is already calling you names.
Wow.
Oh,
I see how it is.
I need to add you on the Twitch thing so we can have split chats or something like that. I forgot about that. See, this is how set up I am.
I tried to do that. It said it didn't support Opera.
No, you have to pull it up on Chrome.
Yeah. I don't want to. I don't want to use two browsers at the same time.
Well, I use one browser for my private account, one for my YouTube. Always ready, yes. Finally started subbing. Nice, I appreciate that. Make sure that you sub. Oh. Well, today's gonna be fun. I'm trying to remember. You did.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I mentioned that I listened to fucking video once about this, and you're like, oh, we should talk about this because it would be cool. And I was like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. So, over the last week, I like picked out two of my because these are going to be long videos. I'm assuming yours are kind of long too.
Yeah.
So we got some long videos here that we're going to listen to, and we're going to obviously pause when necessary and give commentary over them because there's crazy people that we got to talk about.
There be some crazy ass people, man.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, indeed. Indeed, indeed, indeed. But how has your week been so far?
It's been okay.
It's been okay.
I had a good day yesterday until I hurt my back.
I'm sorry to hear that. Why'd you hurt your back?
There was like this I don't know whose dog it was, but someone's dog was outside and I didn't know who it was, and I was tempted to bring it in, but then it just kept like barking and going away. So I was like, you know what? Let me not.
Interesting.
So I bent down trying to like, you know, attract its attention, but then for some reason I just hurt my back.
I'm sorry to hear that. True crime? I guess Dama really is a woman. Oh, hi, Akko. Damn. Chat, I like true crime. Okay, so I'm curious, what got you into true crime?
I don't know, because like, you know, growing up you'd see like TV stations, like I don't know if you saw like Oxygen, and like there were already like true crime things on like cable television, and as a child I was terrified of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's just something about someone else telling the story that I like. Like, I mainly got into podcasts of like true crime, and then I elevated into like body cams and just true crime videos.
Yeah. So I will tell you, I've never actually like watched a video. I've always listened to them because it's a good thing to listen to while you're at work. And
yeah.
I don't recommend that for people that are kind of squeamish. Wait, by the way, chat, we are going to be listening to videos of people that have committed actual crimes, and some of those crimes include actually hurting people. So if you're not interested, I don't mind if you decide to just jump away now. I'll be sad, but I'll get over it.
Oh, my chat wants me to introduce you.
Oh.
They already called you mommy.
That's perfect. It works.
So, to my chat, this is Mama Akko, a good friend.
1/3 of Under the Tea.
1/3 of Under the Tea.
It used to be 1/4, but now I think I'm back to being 1/3.
Move you over a bit more. I'm gonna resize us on my end, so that chat is a little bit visible.
Become the size queen again.
Is she single? Good Lord.
Perhaps, yeah. You know, one thing I thought of that we probably should have done is set up Fugi Tech anyway, because you said that it's gonna like die in a couple hours.
I have my Fugi like already technically up. I just turn it off. So mine is ready on my end.
Oh, perfect. Then I think that when the time comes, we'll just pop it out. Because chat, apparently VTube Studio is going to break in a couple hours. There's not really much we can do about
Steam is about
that.
to have their weekly maintenance.
But when that happens, we'll just switch over to Fugi Tech. I already subbed to Mom. I'm in this. Perfect. Do they know? They don't know?
They don't know.
They don't know. They don't know.
They may not know.
Oh no.
Chat, I'm afraid to burst your bubble that Akko is a man.
That's okay. They were gonna read the account
really
eventually.
big boobs.
The Octo Opies. Oh, chat. You have no idea. You have no idea. Friday's gonna be really fun. Cause I showed you the new model, right? The one that's coming soon.
You did.
Oh man, do you think people are gonna like that? You're kind of quiet. You're kind of scaring me here. You
What?
Oh, I asked if you thought people were gonna like the new model.
I think they will.
You think so? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I like it.
That's good. That's good.
Oh,
That's good.
I've been meaning to bring this up. Do you want your Minecraft skin updated?
We could potentially do that. Yeah, we can talk about
Yeah.
that after the new model comes out. It's gonna be kind of hard because you saw that you saw the model. There's gonna be some bits that are gonna be kind of tricky.
There's definitely gonna be some things that are lost.
Uh-huh.
But I will try my best.
Yeah, I don't think that some parts of the model will fit on that, but I am working on a toggle to make some of the hair disappear for when I'm in collabs, because as you can imagine, that hair is going to be all over the place. So
My
we're working
chat's
on that.
saying no, it's another Mizu. When
Oh,
they
no,
heard
no.
you were a man.
Oh, no, chat, it's better than that. I'm better than another Mizu here. All right? All right?
Yeah. Even though Akko has better, bigger boobs than all of us.
Exactly. Exactly. Chat, you don't even know. You don't even know. Gyaru stream? I don't think that you're a Gyaru. You're just
I'm just brown.
You're just brown. Exactly. I was waiting for you to say it.
I'm just brown. Part of the melanin
Melanin.
mafia.
Oh
even.
no, don't say that. Mizu might ask why you got him sussed. Oh gosh, damn. But anyway, chat, today we're gonna be watching at least 2 or 3 true crime videos. We'll see how long we can go.
Yeah.
And depending on what people feel like, I did set up a YouTube goal. If people meet it, that will definitely make me consider if this will be fun to do again in the future. So if people really like this, make sure you hit the like button, or follow both of us. Very much appreciated. Melanoid Nation. Oh, chat. Melanin Latinkelstein. Oh my gosh. I don't know how to feel about that. But yeah, we're gonna watch some of that, and
Did you
we'll
know which video you wanted to start with?
let's see. How about you choose one of your 2 first, and then we'll jump to mine.
Alrighty.
I technically have
let's see.
another one waiting in the wings, but I'm gonna have to find it. And I didn't choose it because I wasn't sure if you were going to choose it, because it's a very, very famous one. But like I was like waiting to see, and you didn't choose it, so I was like, okay. Then I will pull up this one afterwards as well. Where is
Let's
it?
see.
There it is.
This one is almost 2 hours. We'll probably go with the 1 hour 18 one.
Okay. The Jennifer one, that one's very famous. She's also Canadian, so it's very accurate.
Yennefer.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. I should also mention, chat, this stream is not for kids. All of this stuff is very,
Definitely not.
very serious. There's a warning on at least 2 or 3 of the videos that I like with listening to, where it's just like, this video contains very... This one says this video may be inappropriate for some users. That one will be fun. Excuse me. So, yeah, I think what we'll do is, if you display the screen, I'll show it when we need to, if we want to pause and like go over certain stuff. But otherwise, we'll pretty much just be listening to it.
Alright, let me see if this works. I'm gonna see if I can share the pop-out video. Let's see
Okay.
if that works.
Sounds good. And for my chat, because you already know, we got a stem to the max. I have a game in the background that I can put on if people want to watch me play a game in the background while we listen. Because, you know, we need our Subway server, you know. Oh. Tricks is for kids, not the stream. Got it? Exactly. When are my streams ever for kids? A good point. They're never for kids. Oh. Speaking of for kids, did you see that VTuber agency that it says it was for minors by minors?
I did. I was like, oh my god. I had like I don't know how, Jesus. Like, I don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
No, I
remember applying to them like when I was like pre-debut as well, and I had no idea that they were like for minors by minors. Like they didn't state that until like now.
Wait, so you saw them and you were thinking about applying to them?
Yeah.
Really? How long
like,
ago was this?
A year ago. I think a year ago.
Wow, there's some
A year or
interesting,
two, maybe.
interesting Dama lore here. What agency? It is called Solar Live.
Solar Live.
Yeah, we may talk about it on Thursday, because it is very crazy VTuber drama. It's very weird, and I like hesitated to even touch it because I was like, okay, these are kids, you know. So I was very uncomfortable with it, but I think that we'll probably just talk about it a little bit on Thursday. Dodged a nuke? Exactly. Exactly. Why is my music not playing? There it goes. Is the next button broken? It is. Oh no.
Alright, popping the video does not seem to want to work, so let me see.
That sounds about right, unfortunately. The most that I was able to do when I wanted to show a pop out is just display the entire screen.
What I'll probably do is full screen and then just yeah, I'll just take down the full screen if I need to hide something.
Yeah. Thankfully, it doesn't sound like creepy stuff actually happened that we know of. Hopefully, nothing creepy actually happened. Okay, I have got your video up, and I am popping it out that we can splay up if we need to.
Alright, let me put this up on my end as well.
Oh, so here's a cool thing. If you pop out a Discord screen, there's a little there's a little pin number that you can pin, and it pins it to the top of the screen. So you can have something else up while having that out there. Oh, that's perfect. That's beautiful, actually. I'm going to abuse this in the future. Awesome. It has to be a trap if all the teens are marketed as minors. Oh, I don't know. We'll save that because we're not talking about drama today. Well, we're talking about drama, but like a different kind. Oh goodness. There we go.
Audio for this.
I have it open. I'm gonna switch over to this awesome screen here. There we go. Have you seen my new overlay, by the way?
I have. They're very cool.
I love it. It's fantastic. Scuff might be hated. There's no future. There's no timeline where the org ends well. No, there is not, unfortunately. No, there is not, but thankfully they decided to disband, it looks like.
I'm gonna have to resize this on my end. It is way too big. Oh wait, are we ready?
I think so. I think so.
All right, let me start.
Bada bing, bada boo.
In a small, quiet diner, there's 3 people sitting at a table. On one side, you have a woman, and on the other side, you have these 2 young men. She looks old enough to be their mom, but she's not their mom. And the 3 of them, they look like they're in their
I'm so
own
glad this
little world
isn't an
inside of
AI
this
voice.
diner. Each of them have a plate of food in front of them, and each of them have a completely different energy from each other. They don't look like they're in the same conversation. The woman Miriam is sitting there with her back straight, staring at these guys sitting in front of her, almost like she's in a very tense meeting. The guy directly sitting in front of her is focused on her, but his radio, he's got one of those walkie-talkies. It's buzzing on the table nonstop, where periodically someone will scream street names and signal where the police are headed. They're tracking police and military in the area. That's what she's picking up on. She hears them call the man sitting in front of her by the name of Sama. That's the only reason she even knows his name, is through the radio. Then the last guy, he looks like he's at a buffet. He's not even caring about the 2 of them. He's scarfing down his entire plate of food. And when he's done with his plate, he looks over at Miriam's untouched sandwich. You gonna eat that? She pushes her plate towards him, and he starts taking massive bites out of the sandwich like it's gonna be his last meal or something. The guy with the radio, Sama, he leans forward. Your daughter smoke weed or something? Excuse me? I mean, just how relaxed she is, just super chill, it's weird. She's been easy to deal with, which is good for us, and not freaking out at all. I like that, you know, I like someone who can hold their own. That's why I kind of want to let her go. Then let her go. The decision isn't mine, now is it? Sama tells Miriam that he can't just let his kidnappee go without the big boss upstairs giving him the go-ahead. But Sama can try to convince the big boss that Miriam's daughter isn't worth killing for a price. $2,000.
Jeez.
For $2,000, he's gonna make it happen. He's gonna convince his boss, let the girl go, we don't need to kill her. Miriam looks down and smiles because she has to play along. But she knows her daughter Karen has been kidnapped by one of the most dangerous cartels in all of Mexico. Nobody gets taken by that cartel and gets out alive. Deep, deep down in her heart, Miriam knows the guys sitting in front of her, the cartel members, they killed her daughter. And deep, deep down in her heart, she knows that she will not stop until she takes every single one of them down for what they did. She is going to take out the cartel for taking down her daughter. This is the story of how a middle-aged mom becomes the most feared woman by one of the most dangerous cartels in all of Mexico. Some actually liken this case as the real-life Taken movie. This is the case of Miriam and Karen Rodriguez.
I may have watched Taken or something similar, I think.
I've watched Taken before. It's a decent movie. I know that they made multiple though, and it's just like, okay, 1 is enough. You don't need more.
Takens do you need?
It's like you don't need more than 1 to illustrate the fact that what's his face is upset that his daughter's gone.
Rotten Mango to support Asylum Access, a nonprofit whose goal is to create a world where displaced people can access their rights and rebuild their lives wherever they find themselves. They have been fighting for refugee rights in Mexico for years and are currently the largest refugee legal aid NGO in the country. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we would also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. We had our wonderful Spanish-speaking researcher help assist in the gathering of the research of this case, but today's case truly would not have been possible without the amazing book written by Azam Ahmed titled Fear is Just a Word, A Missing Daughter, A Violent Cartel, and a Mother's Quest for Vengeance. Not only was the book a wealth of resources for this case, but Azam, the author, diligently included cultural context that I think is such an important aspect of this case. And not to mention, he conducted interviews and did his own boots on the ground research. So please, if you're interested, please give this book a read. Now, regarding content warnings, today's case involves essay and trafficking, as well as strong themes of physical violence. And last but not least, the most
She's giving more content warnings than my videos will.
Cartels than
Mine just goes.
warning within a
they
content
suffer
warning.
the
Mine just goes straight into
consequences,
it.
and they remain completely innocent. And just like how every Italian person is not part of the mafia and every Japanese person is not part of the Yakuza, for some reason, perhaps due to some of the rhetoric used in mainstream media outlets in the US, there are groups of people out there that like to believe that most Mexican civilians are associated with a cartel member or with the cartel. And to those people, I hope common sense finds you soon. The existence of the cartels.
I would like to know how many people actually believe that. I don't believe it's that high.
To generalize
Me
and
too.
demonize Mexican people,
How many
immigrants,
people
or
actually
Mexican
think that
Americans.
every single
This is also not meant to deter
person
anyone
from
from visiting or
Mexico's
vacationing
part
in the
of
beautiful
the-
country.
part
We
of the
recently went to
cartel.
Mexico. Okay, it wasn't recent, maybe like a year ago. It feels so recent. It's beautiful. And in fact, of course, we encourage everyone to do their own research before traveling anywhere. But tourism can be a positive way to support the economy and support local employment. I also want to acknowledge that the existence of the cartels is due in part due to American consumerism. In other words, Americans buy. Crime syndicates need customers, and Americans are the biggest customers of cartels. So with that being said, let's get started. The United States describes Zeta as the most violent, most depraved, most feared crime cartel group in all of Mexico. They don't just execute, they torture. Their signature for the Zetas is leaving severed heads on stakes and dissolving bodies in acid. They call it cooking. They always say, do you want to go cook
We've
tonight?"
got to
It means
cook.
they want
Oh,
to dissolve
gosh.
people in acid. They will find a busy bridge and hang their competitors on the bridge one by one. You'll
Ooh,
see
that's
a
not the
row
kind of cooking I'm
10
thinking of.
bodies bloodied, evidence of torture and a painful death, and then hung up like, quote, Christmas lights to send a message. The Zetas, they like their kitchen. Okay, so by sanitation standards, it's probably wouldn't even pass a health inspection. It's their sacred kitchen, though. That's what they call them. They've got kitchens all over the area. Single-story abandoned houses with these giant ovens that they use to incinerate their victims. They cook humans and turn them into ash. Outside these kitchens,
least they leave
you will
nothing
find
around.
mounds of gray dirt, human
Yeah.
ashes mixed
Waste
with
not.
fragments of
Exactly.
human bones, teeth, and nails. And the Zetas are known for being absolutely brutal. That is what they do. They post videos of their executions on the internet. But the Zeta cartel wasn't even a cartel when they got started. They were actually known as hired guns. So the Gulf Cartel was one of Mexico's oldest and most powerful criminal syndicates. At their height, they were earning billions of dollars annually every single year, primarily from the trafficking of cocaine into the United States. The more precise estimates are closer to $20 billion a year in annual revenue.
This is a different one, you said?
This is the Gulf Cartel.
Oh, there's a dude.
The Zetas were actually part of the Gulf Cartel.
Yeah, that's her husband.
Do you know who else makes around that much money in revenue in a single calendar year? In 2023, Nvidia made close to $27 billion in a single year. I mean, they're obviously killing it this year, but still, you're talking about one of the largest tech
Rip
companies
Nvidia.
in the world right now. That's their last year annual revenue. And the Gulf Cartel was allegedly bringing in $20 billion a year at one point. Now, to be fair, I don't think it was all going to the Gulf Cartel. They were strong partners with the Cali Cartel from Colombia. But even then, billions of dollars a year, that is a billion targets on their back. That is why the Gulf Cartel creates the Zetas. The Zetas were trained by the United States. Not like, oh yeah, we modeled our unit after the US military, but they were physically trained by the United States military. To be fair, the US did not wake up one morning and decide, let's go train the cartel members to militarize their violence. That sounds splendid. They didn't do that. The original group that forms the Zetas were originally members of the Mexican Army's elite squad called Air Mobile Special Forces Group. The US and Mexico made this deal where around 400 special forces from the Mexican Army would go train
Mail on
in
stream.
the US, mainly learning how to use
Mail on stream.
That's what everybody's saying.
automatic weapons, as well as learning strategy. They would specifically be trained in urban warfare tactics like close quarters combat, building clearing techniques, extensive training in rifle and pistol marksmanship, training using various explosive devices, as well as sniper training, how to use assault weapons with precision. That's what they're being trained in. Their whole point of their training, ironically, was counter narcotics operations, aka taking down and going up against the cartels.
So they recruit these members
Yes.
specifically.
Yes. Side note, military forces from around the world train at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, so it's not like the most mind-blowing concept that Mexico would send their agents to train there. But it does seem like through this training by the US Army, it would be the birth of one of the most violent cartels in Mexico. They're actually credited by a lot of people for starting the violence of cartels. Because back then, cartels were violent amongst each other. But then slowly cartels started being violent with the locals. And this is kind of the start of that. The leader of the Gulf cartel at the time, he starts feeling like the rival cartel leaders are going to kill him, which, I mean, yeah, it's a very valid paranoia. They want his very desirable border territory.
Do you know when was it born? The
2010, Zetas.
that recent?
Yes. So the Gulf cartel, they control the northeastern border that is bordering the United States. So this is very valuable territory. This is like prime for smuggling. So all the other cartels, they want to take the Gulf territory. That and the Mexican Marines are out there doing similar things as the cartels, not the drug smuggling, but just shooting everyone on sight that appears to be a cartel member. That's what the Marines are doing. And the leader of the Gulf cartel starts getting
You know, I feel like I learned a lot about the cartels watching Breaking Bad.
Of the Special Forces agents to be his personal bodyguards.
I've seen a whole bunch of memes, but I haven't actually watched Breaking Bad.
It's on Netflix for the rest of the month, I believe.
More than the government can even imagine. You don't understand how deep the pockets run in the cartels. This sounds a bit more commonplace now, but it was not at the time. This would be the first cartel to really incorporate
You're trying to find the Mayan One
paramilitary
Piece
group into their ranks. The Zetas originally came in a group of 30 former US-based trained Special Forces agents. They started recruiting more of their former friends and colleagues, and they create this highly trained, highly specialized troop for the Gulf cartel. They were called the Enforcement Arm. They protect the Gulf cartel's leaders. They carry out violent operations and assassinations. They secure the cartel's territory and interest and go kill all the enemies that need to be handled. They were highly effective. So prior to this, the Gulf cartel, they would just train random kids off the street to learn how to point and shoot a gun to protect the cartel's interest. But nothing, no one can go up against specialized training by the US Army along with the military-style discipline. I mean, this is crazy. The Zeta wing is just straight up lethal. There really is no better way to describe them. They go in for the kill and they get it done. Until the Zeta group realizes, if we're the part that makes the Gulf cartel so special, then why do we need the Gulf cartel? It's not even like the Zetas aren't doing all the strategizing. I mean, it would be one thing if they have the firepower, the manpower, and the Gulf cartel is the brains of the operation. But every hit, every operation, the Zetas are planning that out like a military level job, like a military level sting. So what would be stopping them from starting their own cartel and taking all of the profits? The Zetas split off from the Gulf cartel, and cartels are not really known for being an easy group to break up with. They're not going to send you nice flowers and send you hope you're doing well text messages if you leave. They're going to try
Obviously
and
not.
kill you. But the newly formed Zeta cartel, they decide, why don't we send a message first? We're not scared. In fact, we're going to steal your business. In fact, we're going to steal your territory, and you will be lucky if we don't kill you.
So they split up from the leader, the previous leader.
Yes, from the Gulf cartel.
So
and they start
her
the
channel's
Zeta
whole thing is
cartel.
telling him stories.
March 31st, 2010 is the day Zeta cartel declares war on the
It's
former
more
Gulf
telling the
cartel
story,
that
but
they were
like her
part of. This takes place
husband's in
San
the background,
Fernando,
too.
Mexico. 4 a.m.
It's like
Police
they're
get a call.
technically
You have
both.
to come out
Well, yeah.
quick. There's
I
been
guess
an
you could
accident on the
technically
highway, a
say
big one.
she's also telling him
10
the story
squad
too.
cars rush to the scene, and there's a truck that's rolled over on its side, and there's nobody else. There's one truck driver, one rolled truck. He seems like he fell asleep at the wheel. He's refusing to go to the hospital. It's just, the whole thing is odd. More lights suddenly come speeding down the highway. Firefighters. They were also called to the scene. They said, massive accident. You need to get down here real quick.
Oh my gosh.
It's just one truck flipped
Oh my
over.
gosh.
Once all
Oh
the
my God.
authorities are there, it kind of feels like an overkill situation. One truck, the truck driver isn't even badly injured, and they have everyone out here on the highway in the middle of the night. The highway isn't even loud.
Something's going on somewhere else.
It's almost silent. And it's a known thing in San Fernando. You typically don't drive around at night unless you absolutely must. It's the life of living in a cartel-controlled area. Well, it was controlled by the Gulf cartel at the time. Okay, all right then, let's pack it up. The cops are like, we gotta go. Let's keep it moving. The police, the firefighters, they're all getting ready to leave when they start feeling a vibration, a rumbling. What the hell is that? They freeze, they look up, and on the other side of the highway, they see a scene that looks straight out of an apocalyptic movie. There are rows of modified vehicles, giant trucks with tires that are taller than them, trailers, giant SUVs, a freaking school bus with a gun mount on top, and all of them are spray painted with a Z on the side, and all of them have assault rifles on top of their vehicles. Makeshift tanks.
It sounds cool.
A whole squad of them, rows and rows of them, driving down the highway like they're about to go into war. It's a setup.
Wait, are they coming for the cops?
They're coming for the town. The whole town. The police start rushing to their radios, warning everyone. They jump into their cars, some into the nearby woods. They're like, I'm abandoning this. Like, I'm leaving. I'm not taking my car.
I would leave too.
Yeah, I would leave
They're shooting
too.
at us. Everybody come. Like, we gotta leave. The bastards are coming from all the sides. As the makeshift tanks are driving past the police, they're just firing. It seems like they have no care for wasting bullets, ammunition. They're just firing at everything that they come in contact with. From 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the next 6 hours, the Zetas go block to block in San Fernando, firing into every single public building they could find. They do not fire into residential buildings. They do not fire into hospitals. But everything else, the courthouses, the police stations,
Well, yeah, they're not
DMV,
animals.
things like that. The buildings they look like Swiss cheese.
They're
by
just
the next
cartel
morning.
members.
And the message is very clear. The Gulf Cartel is no longer in charge. The Zetas are. When the San Fernando residents walk out the next morning, some of the bullet casings left all over the street are still hot. The mass firing of the bullets was chaotic and unhinged. Nobody slept a single minute last night. And by the way, they systematically came into this town and targeted every single public building. It felt like they were trying to send a message because they did not kill a single person.
Oh.
The Zeta armored trucks came, split up, took down different roads. It was very organized, like a military operation, like a military taking over an enemy's town and trying not to kill the population. It's almost forcing submission.
Yeah. That is crazy. No one was killed.
Nobody was even seriously injured. So it's not that the Zetas tried to kill people and failed. It's they intentionally did not want to kill anyone. It's like
Even
they just
gangsters have morals.
But what does that message
Very
mean?
accurate.
Does that mean that they want to get on the good side
I
of the
mean,
locals?
I would say some
They don't know.
probably do.
And that hope is
They do
very
have
quickly
some
crushed because
type
the
of
Gulf
morals.
Cartel, they're not going to easily
Some of
give
them
up their territory
are kind of
like
crazy,
that.
though.
They start fighting back, and
Yeah.
within a week, all hell breaks loose in San Fernando. Car bombs are exploding every 2 seconds. Buildings are being lit on fire. The cartel members start stealing every big SUV from the dealership, just walking into the lot with rifles, assault rifles, stealing all the SUVs to put gun mounts on top to create basically tanks. A full-on war breaks out between the Gulf Cartel and the newly formed Zeta Cartel, and every single civilian in that area would be collateral in a war that they have no skin in the game in.
So a lot of people died?
A lot of people, tens of thousands of people, yeah.
Tens of thousands?
So the number in San Fernando is kind of up in the air. A lot of people don't report when their loved ones go missing, and you'll see why soon. But the war on drugs and the cartel violence wars, span of like a few years, I think in 1 year alone, it was like 60,000 people died. Innocent civilians, a lot of them. So like I said, nobody is more negatively impacted by the cartels than Mexican civilians that are all innocent. Now, when the Zetas take over the town, they wanted the people to fear them, but not despise them. And then the Zetas soon realized it doesn't really matter what the residents feel about the cartels, as long as they feared them, because fear is the biggest thing that they can have. It's the most powerful emotion. So the Zetas, they started implanting a new way of operating. Murder is now the message. That's how they operate. Psychological warfare. That's how they rule the territory. If anyone wants to start their own cartel, this is their enemy. If the Gulf Cartel wants to wage another war against the Zetas, this is their enemy. The Sinaloa cartel, most notably run by El Chapo, that is rivals with the Zetas, this is their enemy. And you do not want the Zetas as your enemy. Don't get me wrong. The Zetas, they were violent from the get-go. There is no denying that, but it is stated that locals believe that they would still operate similarly as before. They believed, okay, even if the Zetas break off from the Gulf Cartel, they're gonna viciously fight the Gulf cartel. They're gonna viciously fight any other cartel that tries to sneak up on their territory and their smuggling routes. They're gonna decimate them with no mercy, and there might be some collateral damage of innocent lives taken. But they never thought innocent people would become the target of the Zetas. Innocent civilians that have nothing to do with the cartel world. Why would the Zetas target them? What would they want from them? The problem starts because there are only so many former special forces that you can recruit from. It's a numbers game. Eventually you run out. The ones that don't join a cartel are ruled out. The ones that already joined a cartel are ruled out. The ones that died from being in a cartel are ruled out. There's not an endless supply of well-trained special forces agents. But you can't run a criminal enterprise without manpower. So if the Zetas have 100 former special forces, no matter how good they are, they can't go up against 2,000 untrained, heavily armed rival cartel members. The Zetas have no choice but to start recruiting inexperienced guys off the street. Their recruits keep getting younger and deadlier. There was one time the Mexican army went and wiped out a whole Zeta training camp. They have training camps. And the authorities started getting concerned because they went in afterwards to see the damage. They found this little girl, maybe 13, laying amongst the dead, and they thought, we messed up. We killed someone that's not part of the cartel. Which, side note, the army's method of just wiping out any cartel member is already quite controversial, but they went in and thought, oh no, we killed a girl that's not part of the cartel. She was. The little 13-year-old girl
Yikes.
was a female
She was.
that had been working for the Zetas for more than a year. Ever since the rival cartel, the Gulf cartel,
It is
had killed
sad,
her
though.
dad.
It is very
The
sad.
Zetas had recruited her. Sometimes the Zetas would recruit people that they would just give them no choice but to join the Zetas. They would recruit young people and they would practically force them. There is a saying that is heavily used in the cartel world by Pablo Escobar.
What did I walk
and he would
into?
usually
Hello,
say to
Eva.
politicians.
Talk about cartels.
Plomo, it translates to silver or lead, meaning as a politician, do you want to take the silver? AKA, do you want to take the money and do as I say? Or do you want to take the lead in the form of a bullet? Do you want to be killed? Those are your two choices. The Zetas turned it into silver or steel. Either take the money and join the Zetas, or the Zetas had an affinity for decapitating people with chainsaws, steel chainsaws. They wouldn't even use bullets. Bullets were for efficiency and chainsaws were for fun, and the Zetas like to have fun. These are the new recruits in Zeta, and to keep them happy, the Zeta leaders told the new cells or the arms or divisions of their cartel that they can do whatever the hell they want as long as you don't touch oil and drug smuggling. Everything else, human trafficking, go at it. Earn your money that way.
At it.
Leadership doesn't have to spend so
free
much on
free real
overhead for
estate.
employees.
Just don't
You know,
touch
free
the
for-
oil.
Now, depending on the leadership,
That's America's
of
oil
cartels,
right
it
there.
is theorized by people who study cartels that the tighter the leadership is at the top, the slightly less violent the cartel is to civilians. I mean, obviously, depending on the cartel and the leader, but typically, if the leadership has a tight rein on the members, then it's much harder for people to step out of line. And usually, the leaders, if they have a tight rein, they tend to be a little smarter, and I'm not saying smarter equates to anything. They're all morally corrupt, but they tend, even from small mom and pop businesses, whatever they want, they get it. In the beginning, if someone said no, they were brutally killed on sight, and very quickly civilians knew that saying no is not an option here. Even looking at Zetas wrong on the street was a death wish. You're signing your death certificate. A US judge stated about a Zeta high-ranking hitman that was later tried in the US. They said about the culture of the Zetas: without mercy, without thought, they brutally murder anyone and everyone as it suits them and the cartel, at times inflicting the cruelest of pain, forcing relatives to watch their loved ones murdered before he turns his blades on them. Other cartels have straight up accused them of not following the gentleman's code of conduct when it comes to drug trafficking. And at one time, it was considered bad form for the cartel members to kill pregnant women, but not anymore.
At one point.
Zetas.
At one point.
In one incident, a hitman for the Zetas dismembered a young girl with an axe while she was alive and lit her body on fire in front of her parents. It said that he did this while laughing and shrugged at the parents, and San Fernando, a middle-aged mom, is looking for the florist. it's not exactly how she imagined her early morning to be going. She's still in her pajamas. She's got a trench coat thrown on top, a baseball cap. She just looks like she rolled out of bed and was summoned by somebody to run this errand. She never even liked flowers to begin with. They remind her of funerals and death, and now she's weaving through the streets trying to go through the vendors that are trying to sell you water and snacks to look for the freaking florist. Most people in town don't even know the florist's real name. They just call him the florist because ever since he was a kid, he would just sell flowers on the street. He'd be standing on the corner, holding a few stems of flowers, looking very hungry. If it was a marketing tactic, it was definitely working. Anytime Miriam would make a big dinner, she was known for this.
It's fine.
She would
It's
call
just
all the kids in
buffering.
the area that looked like they could use a warm meal. And she would call them over, and the florist was usually on that.
There's not much I can do about it.
It's clear that nobody was taking care of him. That is Miriam's very first and most consistent memory of the florist. But it's interesting because he was just always in Miriam's life. Not really ever in her life, but just a side character that never fully went away. He was just always kind of there. Even later, when Miriam's youngest daughter, Karen, starts getting older, the florist would chase her down and try to give her flowers for free. And side note, they're around the same age, so it's not like this middle-aged florist man chasing down a 17-year-old. Karen has this very bright, light-colored blonde hair, and she has a, quote, rosy complexion. And so a lot of people said it made her stand out in the area, and a lot of guys were interested in her, and I guess including the florist. But Karen would nicely reject the florist, offer him $1 or $2, knowing that he wasn't doing well, and then walk back to school. Karen was always very sweet with the florist. That's what Miriam is thinking about when she sees him down the walkway. There he is. The florist. She starts running up to him and then tackles him on the ground. She pulls out a loaded pistol from her trench coat jacket, jams it into his back, and whispers into the florist's ear, "If you move, I will fucking shoot you." She also knew the florist was now part of the Zeta cartel. He was part of the cell that kidnapped and killed her daughter, Karen. She jams the gun deeper into the skin of his back, but she doesn't need to. He knows she will shoot if he moves, because this is not Miriam's first cartel takedown. The florist is her 11th target. Before him, there were 10. 4 are now in prison, and 6 are now dead. The florist was about to be dead too, if he doesn't do as Miriam says.
But Miriam took care of him, right?
Took care of him, he's arrested.
No, I'm saying like Miriam was like giving him food.
Yes,
Like-
when he was younger. January 24th, 2014, a couple wake up in their home in Texas. It's very quiet, perhaps a little too quiet. They make their way downstairs, and on the kitchen table is a note.
I love it when everybody's like,
Whoever
oh, it's
wrote
too
it,
quiet.
They didn't take the time to make it neat or even to explain what the note is about. It just reads
I know,
along the
right?
lines of,
He's like,
"Sorry, I'm never
obviously,
coming back.
something will
Something
happen."
awful has happened."
If it's way
The
too
couple
damn
glance
quiet.
at each other and they run to their son's room. They slam open their door, and their 10-year-old son is laying in bed, sleeping peacefully. What?
What a
Why would their
God,
nanny just
jeez.
leave? I mean, they had gotten along so well with her. She was slowly becoming part of the family, and their son absolutely adored her. They thought that she was enjoying the position too. She never complained about her job, so why would she just up and leave? Miriam did not have time to explain. She didn't have time to sit there and tell the couple that she worked for that at 4 a.m. she got a call from her eldest daughter, Azalea. Miriam shoots up in bed. "What's wrong? What happened?" "Mom, something awful happened." "With your husband, Ernesto?" No. Azalea starts sobbing. "Just tell me." Something awful happened to Karen. Miriam was already packing her bags by this point. She scribbles down a note, tosses it on the counter, starts running out the door. She jumps onto a bus from Texas heading into San Fernando. It's going to take at least 2 hours. That's on top of the time that she already had to wait for the bus. And Miriam is overwhelmed with anxiety right now. So what is she supposed to do for the next 2 hours on this bus? She sits on the very back row and starts silently sobbing. A few people on the bus, they try to comfort her. One of the older men hands her his handkerchief. "Are you all right, ma'am?" "My daughter has been kidnapped by the Zeta cartel." The man just nods, because by now, most of the locals know the Zeta cartels have been kidnapping innocent people. He looks down and he slowly pulls out a piece of paper from his pocket, grabs a pen, and jots a few things down. "Call my son. My son is a lieutenant in the Mexican Marines." Miriam thanks him and goes back to sobbing in her seat. She got the call from Azalea about Karen being kidnapped at 4 a.m. By 8 a.m., she's back in San Fernando. Fill me in, tell me everything that's happened. Azalea's a mess. I heard something near the door in the middle of the night, so I got up from my sleep. I started walking towards the front door, and I saw Dad. This isn't the most alarming thing until you realize that Azalea and her dad are somewhat estranged. They haven't spoken to each other in the past 2 years, and suddenly he's at her doorstep in the middle of the night. She opens the door. He looks very disheveled. And I don't know if it's sister intuition or what, but Azalea just blurts out, "Karen?" Her dad is stepping into the house when his phone starts ringing. They rush inside, close the door, pick up the phone, and put it on speaker. It's a man's voice. "Louise, by now you know we have your daughter. I've discussed it with the group, and after much consideration, we've decided the ransom to get your daughter Karen back is going to be $77,000.
USD?
USD.
USD.
That's
Before they
crazy.
can respond, they hear Karen's voice.
Obviously.
"Dad, please, they just want the money. It's not about anything else. If you pay, they'll let me go. If not, I guess this is goodbye." Azalea would later say it felt like something in her sister's voice sounded very unsure, like she wasn't positive that her dad was willing to pay the money to save her. And before they can even respond to that,
Is this true crime
the
or an
caller hangs up.
audiobook?
$77,000.
It's true crime.
The average
I think.
salary in Mexico in a year
it's true
is
crime.
around $12,000 to $15,000. They're asking for $77,000 by 3 p.m. the next day. In the next 12 hours, they have to come up with $77,000. Nobody slept all night. When 8 a.m. rolls around, Luis, their father, is getting ready. He puts on his best clothes. He showers, shaves, slicks back his hair. He needs to look as good as possible for this. He starts practicing in his head what he's going to say when he walks into the bank. "Hi, I would like to get a loan for my business." By 10 a.m., the family have combined all of their funds, their entire life savings, the loan from the bank that they just got, any other valuable goods they could sell for cash, all of it amounted to less than $10,000. A seventh of what they're asking for. Louise was to drop off the money at a local health center, and Miriam parked so that she could see the handoff, but the cartel couldn't see her. They wait for 2 hours, and this man, honestly, boy, walks up. He looks like a teenager. He's young, he's skinny. He grabs the bag of cash, but Louise doesn't let go. "My daughter, meet her at the cemetery in 20 minutes. And with that, the boy runs off with the bag of cash. He jumps into this cherry red Ford Explorer and they speed off. Okay, that's okay.
Cherry
They're
red,
gonna be
oh my
reunited with
gosh.
Karen. Money is just money. They're gonna have Karen and everything's gonna be okay. And they drive over to the cemetery and they just wait and wait and wait and nothing. The next morning, they get a call. The kidnappers, the cartel. They assure the family everything's fine. We just didn't want to go out in the rain yesterday. Which is technically true. The minute that they got to the cemetery, there was a storm. Some streets in San Fernando were even briefly flooding. So yeah, I mean, it all tracks. But the whole next day, the family are sitting there anxiously waiting for another drop-off location, but it never comes. I mean, I think all of them had this small fear in their minds, but everybody held on to the hope. The kidnappers just want the money. We paid the money. There's no reason for them to kill Karen. The next day, the kidnappers break into Miriam's house, where she lives with Karen. Obviously, Miriam wasn't there at the time. She was staying with Azalea, her other daughter. But the cartel break into her house, go through Karen's things, which is a good sign, right? I mean, they're grabbing clothes for her, which means she's coming back. They're just robbing her. Maybe they wanted a little more goods. But that day, after breaking into the house, they call the family back. "We need more money." The family just stare at the phone. How on earth do you think we have more money? Ransoms are very tricky. If you pay too quickly, on one hand, you do that because you want to ensure the safety of your loved one as quickly as possible. But on the other hand, if you pay money too quickly, the kidnappers might think that they lowballed you and you have way more money than that. And if you can easily whip up $10,000, you can easily whip up another $10,000. But the family, they do not have more money. Miriam ends up borrowing from everybody she can think of and gives the kidnappers another $2,000. By this point, the hope is still there. They had truly given everything. The kidnappers, surely, the cartel know that they're organized crime. They know how money works. They know how much money families in Mexico have, or rather don't have in this situation. This should be enough to get Karen back. Within a month, with Karen still gone, that hope starts dying off. Nobody in the family really says it ever, They all still talk as if Karen's gonna walk in through the front door any second now, but nobody actually believes it anymore. Even Miriam, who was the backbone of the entire family, the one that holds faith and hope longer than anybody else, even Miriam is starting to lose hope. By the end of the month, Karen is still not back, and Miriam is falling into a depressive state. Obviously, for her missing daughter.
Why you don't
which I
negotiate?
think
Yeah.
we can really put
I mean, they
into
don't really have
words,
much
but
choice.
Even beyond that, it's like the
In
whole
Mexico.
the whole situation breaks every concept of life that Miriam thought she knew. She thought as long as her kids stay out of trouble, keep their head down, don't go out alone at night, they would be untouched by the cartel violence. That's how Miriam grew up. The cartels would leave innocent uninvolved. They would leave them alone. She would tell her kids all day, every day, keep your head down, mind your own business, don't talk back, and don't go out at night. Which even just telling them that made her inside so angry. Miriam is the opposite of that. She is never shy to share her thoughts or get into these loud, heated arguments to defend whatever she thinks is the correct answer. And Miriam tricked herself to think that they lived in this bubble. She thought only the rich get kidnapped for ransom. Only the cartel members get killed in turf wars. Only the slightly guilty, somewhat involved go missing. They don't just take random innocent people. It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. It's not the way the world works, right? You're supposed to be a good person. If you abide by the rules, nothing that bad happens to you. I mean, obviously you experience hardships and challenges, but you're not going to get kidnapped by the cartels because what would they want to do with you? Isn't that the unspoken agreement? Everyone could just see Miriam's decline. Miriam was someone who took a lot of care in her makeup and clothing choices. She hadn't put on makeup in the past month. She rarely ever changed out of her pajamas. She spent all day laying there scrolling on her phone, trying to think of ways to get Karen back, think of possibilities of where she might be. And so for a month, Miriam grieved. She did nothing else but just wallow in fear for Karen, grief for her family and how they're going to handle this, and then just self-pity for herself. She is spiraling. Until February 23rd, 2014, 1 month after Karen has vanished. Miriam gets up, takes a bath, sits down in front of a mirror, and brushes her hair out for the first time. She puts on a full face of makeup, walks back downstairs, almost shocking her daughter Azalea. Mom, are you going somewhere? They're not
Like the
bringing
music
Karen back to
wind
me.
up.
I know this in my heart as a
Oh my
Karen
gosh.
is dead. There was no self-pity or grief in her voice, just determination. For the rest of my life, with the time that I have left, I'm gonna find the people who did this to my daughter, and I'm going to make them pay. Miriam got into her truck that day, and Azalea would say her mom was never the same after that. Because that was the day she decided Karen
I like
is
the Avengers
dead,
style music wind up.
and soon her killers will be dead too if Miriam had anything to do with it. But first, she needs to find out what happened to her little girl, to find out who needs to pay. But even that's going to be hard. The Zetas never
I mean, I
have
feel
a
like it
reason for
definitely
kidnapping
helps
someone.
with the
It's
mental
just
image.
what they do now. The city of San Fernando
sure.
has a curfew. It's not just for teenagers or minors to get home by a certain time or else. It's for every single resident. Get home by 5 p.m. if you know what's good for you. If you have an emergency that you need to go outside after dark, really think, really weigh out the benefits. Is it worth the risk? Even
John
trips
Wick
to the
art.
hospital.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Will you survive until the morning? Yeah? Then maybe you should wait until then. Because as much as the Zetas are violent, they are a deeply paranoid group, which makes sense because their come up is betraying the cartel that they used to work with and creating their own division and taking over the original territory of the original cartel. Not only are they paranoid that the original cartel, the Gulf cartel, is going to come back and take vengeance on them, they're also concerned that other cartels, the Sinaloa cartel, is going to take their territory, but they're also concerned that other factions are going to break off from the Zetas and start their own cartel. There's a lot of paranoia.
This
in
is
San
why you don't get
Fernando.
into a gang,
So
chat.
they created a curfew. Anybody driving at night
You'll be paranoid
would
for the rest
likely
of your
be
life.
stopped by Zeta patrols with assault rifles.
And you'll be hunted for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
More often than not, if you're a young man, they will just assume that you're part of a cartel. And if you're not someone that they're familiar with, then in their minds, you're part of the other cartels, which means you're the enemy and you need to die. If you're not a young man, they could still be thinking that you're working for the other cartels, or you could be up to no good. Maybe you're selling drugs on the side. You're not allowed to do that. This is their territory. Or maybe they just like your car. Or maybe they think that you'd be a good trafficking victim. Or maybe they think that they should kidnap you and ransom you. There really is no reason on why they kidnap anybody. Zeta just has a
Don't join the
habit of kidnapping
CIA.
locals
Exactly.
and forcing their families to pay hefty ransoms to get their loved ones back. Innocent civilians that have nothing to do with the cartels. So back then, when Miriam was growing up, cartels were just cartels. They smuggle drugs, they make obscene amounts of money, they drive luxury cars, and they host these parties. I would say it's safe to say most Mexican citizens now definitely hate the cartels, but back then, even when the cartels were doing their own thing, they didn't like the cartels. But even if
I love
the
mafia
police
games because
and
every
the
single
government
time your
can't stop
character
them,
loses
what are
in the end,
citizens
well,
gonna do?
because
They
they're
can't
supposed
stop
to.
them. So they're just trying to coexist. It seems the
'Cause the character
consensus is
sucks.
stay out of their way and they'll stay out of yours. That's how it used to be. Some people would even say that they actually liked cartel leaders at one point. Pablo Escobar was known for almost having a Robin Hood image in his particular hometown, not a lot of other towns, but he would fund housing projects and help build soccer fields, which generally earned him a bit of admiration from some of the residents. Other cartel members, not just part of Pablo Escobar's group, but other cartels would have high-ranking officials pay for the bills of every single civilian at a restaurant when they go out to eat, just so the community would like them, which made it easier to traffic drugs through their town. But it's not like that anymore. Times have changed. It's said that cartels used to just target the rich, but now they just do whatever they want. One expert about the Zetas said, the Zetas steal from everyone, not just the rich. They certainly don't give much back to the poor, except the corpses of their relatives. They're just known for being a different kind of human being. To give you an idea of what Miriam was up against, one of the most heinous crimes committed by the Zetas was actually all over international news at the time. The Zetas were monitoring a highway. They stopped 2 trucks that were trafficking migrants to the US border. There were 70 plus migrants in the trucks. The Zetas pulled them over, forced their trucks to drive to one of their kitchens or ranches in the middle of nowhere. They fed them all tacos and sodas, sat them down
That's
in a
crazy.
big circle and started talking. $500
You
a
get
week.
stopped by
That's
the
unheard of.
fucking
The type of work you
cartel.
guys are
They
trying to
feed you
do in the
tacos
US,
and
you're not
soda.
gonna get paid $500 a week. If you come work for us, $500 a week. The offer is very simple. Work for us, fight the war against the Mexican army and the Gulf cartel. The men, you guys will be trained killers, and the women will be domestic workers. What do you guys think? One by one, all of the 70 plus people said no. The Zetas smiled. Yeah, okay, no problem. Then let's get you guys going. They load everyone back onto the trucks, but instead of leading them back onto the highway, the trucks are led to another ranch. This one is even more isolated. There were about 9 Zetas tying up everybody's
Migrants?
hands with
Yeah,
zip ties.
migrants.
Some were
Not
blindfolded
migrants.
and forced into this tiny, abandoned, single-story house, and for the next 2 hours, almost all of them are brutally murdered. 72 were found dead. For what? It's likely
For
that
tacos and soda.
there have been more massacres like this before, but the Mexican Marines were able to find out about it before the Zetas cleaned up the bodies. It became international news, and also because a lot of the migrants were not Mexican citizens, it becomes a bit of an international diplomatic nightmare. And this was just pure proof that the violence with the cartels is getting out of hand. Even the president can't ignore it because the whole world is talking about it. These are the types of people that Miriam is going up against. But the whole world isn't talking about Karen. Unfortunately, that's not how the news cycle seems to work. 72 dead, international news. A young girl in Mexico goes missing without a trace. It's not even local news. It's town conversation. It's gossip. It's a sad family until the next one goes missing. It's up to the family to figure out what happened. Not even the police really care. Karen's family start piecing together the last time that they heard from Karen. Azalea asked Karen if she wanted to go to church reading with her, but Karen said, "Oh, I can't go. I have to go out with the cousin tonight." So the rest of the night, Azalea periodically tries to either call or text Karen, and she doesn't respond. Azalea's a bit panicked considering everything that's going on in the area, but she just assumed Karen forgot to charge her phone and she would just respond tomorrow. But then her dad shows up at the door. The first person Miriam talks to is the cousin that Karen was eating dinner with, which is the reason that she couldn't go to church with Azalea. The cousin said it was weird. They were sitting down eating, and Karen got this call all of a sudden, and she tells him, "I gotta go." "What? Where? Why?" "I have to go pick up a friend." "Which friend?" "A guy named Ulysses. I gotta go. Love you. Bye."
Love you, bye.
Karen was out the door. He didn't even get a chance to ask, "Who the hell is Ulysses? I've never heard of him before." Ulysses was a dead-end lead for now, but Miriam heard someone else had been kidnapped with Karen. Actually, Karen had been kidnapped with a whole group of her friends. Carlos was one of them. Carlos was a close friend of Karen who was there the night she was kidnapped because he was going to fix her car for her. He went missing, and the next morning, Karen's mom gets a call demanding money from the kidnappers, the cartel. She tells the kidnappers, I have no money, and they laugh into the phone before hanging up. They say, well, then we'll send your son in pieces. And they hung up on her.
Okay.
But somehow, Carlos is home. He's back.
What?
And he's very much alive. And he knows exactly what happened to Karen. So for months, Miriam's begging Carlos to talk to her, but he's terrified, likely threatened by the Zetas that if he says anything, he's going to be dead. Eventually, Carlos starts telling Miriam bits and pieces about what happened that night. The way Carlos describes it, it's like a group of people, violent offenders, escaped from a mental hospital with guns and chainsaws. That's how it felt being kidnapped by the Zetas. They're a group of unpredictable, unhinged, unstable, terrifying, violent people. Carlos had gone to Miriam's house. So Miriam is in Texas working, and Karen lives there alone. Carlos had gone with his cousin to Karen's house since he had already agreed to be there to fix Karen's car. And while they're arriving, before they get to the front door, they are startled. Two men start coming out of the house to greet them. Oh, hey, is Karen home? Is Karen? She's not here. If you want, though, you can come in and you can wait for her. Carlos and his cousin walk in, and immediately in the living room, they see Karen laying on the floor crying. Her hands and feet are tied together, and her face is completely bloody and swollen. Carlos and his cousin try to beeline it out the door, but the guys point rifles into their faces. And one of them laughs. Oh, you're so fucked now. The two gunmen tie Carlos and his cousin up. They're tossed near the back of the house like flour sacks, but they could hear the two men just beating
Like flour
Karen,
sacks.
kicking and punching her all over. They kept demanding to know what information Karen leaked, but she sounds so confused by this question. What information are you talking about? How can I leak information? I don't know. I think you have me confused with somebody else. I don't know what you're talking about. But with
I hate
each
this phrase,
denial,
but the
they
phrase,
just keep
some people
torturing
just
her
want to see the
more.
world burn.
We know
Yeah.
you work for the Gulf Cartel. Karen is frantic.
Yeah.
She's
That is
screaming. I have
accurate.
nothing to do
Some
with
people are
any of
just
the cartels.
pure
Please.
evil.
They don't care. They keep torturing her, suffocating her, bringing her back. When she passes out and doesn't get back up, they pour buckets of cold water on her. They're slamming their fists into her face, and she keeps telling them, you have the wrong person. Eventually, the group, Karen and her friends that were tied up elsewhere in the house, are taken to a separate location, including Carlos and his cousin. They call it the ranch. At the ranch, they're all lined up inside.
Not
Going to the
Dr. Phil
ranch.
The house that had already been
Definitely not the
the
Dr.
Zetas
Phil
are screaming
ranch.
at them,
No.
telling them, you're gonna get the
You're
bag.
going to the ranch.
Do you know what the bag is? It's where they put a plastic bag over your head until you're on the brink of death, and then they bring you back. You'll get the bag if you don't cooperate. Carlos said it sounded like the Zetas were convinced that Karen specifically was working with the Gulf Cartel, and they kept trying to extract some sort of confession from her, but she sounded as confused as everybody else. But all the others could just hear Karen screaming, no, I'm not with them. And then there would just be sounds of her being tortured and screaming for mercy.
Ram
Zetas
ranch.
come around to one of Karen's friends.
Going Ram
shoves a
Ranch.
Not that ranch.
Now, what do you want to say?
I'm
as your
glad they're
last
labeled
words?
terrorist groups. Yeah.
He just said,
Yeah.
what did I do? The kidnappers start laughing. They do this down the line to every single person. All of them are kneeled and tied up. One of them says, what's your last words? The next guy responds to the kidnappers, may God bless you. And the kidnappers are swinging around their assault rifles, pointing them at them unhinged, just cackling. This motherfucker thinks he's in a movie. Did you hear that? Say it again. The third man, instead of saying something for his last words, he complained if he could just untie his boots because they're too tight right now and it's cutting off the blood circulation. The male kidnappers start laughing again, and they call over a woman. She walks over and she laughs in his face, starts jumping up and down with all her weight on the man's legs until he's sobbing.
I mean, how heavy is the woman?
She leans down in his face then. How does that feel now? Do your feet still hurt? And they start laughing. Eventually, they load everybody up and move them to another location, another ranch where they're all shoved into another small house, abandoned house, and they're forced to sit on this dirt floor. They were told that their families were going to get ransom calls, and if they pay the ransom, they'll let them go. They went one by one asking for the family phone numbers, and it was at this ranch that same woman that was jumping on the man's legs starts focusing on Karen. Carlos said this woman hates Karen for no reason.
I don't know why people
She
hate
doesn't even
cartels
seem to
enough.
know
They only exist by
Karen,
hurting people.
Other than the fact that Karen's pretty. That's what this woman hates.
I don't know.
Carlos said the woman straight up grabbed Karen by the hair, spun her around so that she's laying on her stomach, straddled her back, and she said, "This is for being so pretty," and starts smashing her head against the floor and using her fist to pummel her. They were kept overnight, making calls to their families for ransom. And by the next morning, one of the guys pointed
From Ram
out
Ranch to
all
Catboy
of the
Ranch.
male
Oh no.
captives.
I
For the
prefer the
assholes-
Catboy Ranch, honestly.
He points at Karen and her friend Barbara, the two women. "Take the bitches to the tree. You know what to do." Two guys drag Karen and Barbara over to the tree. They tie a yellow rope around their necks and fling it over the tallest branch of the tree and start pulling the other end of the rope. Karen is fighting back. She's trying to break free. One guy is holding the other end of the rope, keeping her suspended, and another guy comes up to grab a stick so he can beat Karen with it like a piñata. The ones that survived
Ow.
didn't see the
Human
rest, but they
piñata.
were told, and they speculate that Karen was killed on the tree and later potentially dissolved in acid. Cooked, as they call it. And I think all cases are very devastating, but I always find the ones where as kids they overcome all their obstacles and somehow are almost miracle babies, and then their lives get stolen. I think it's like an extra level of just betrayal from the world that Miriam is feeling, because Karen was able to overcome her heart murmur. She was able to overcome all of these obstacles, and then they take her and then they kill her. Cristiano was Miriam's next target. He was rather easy to catch, not the brightest one in the group. He was arrested without a fight, and immediately he starts confessing to who he is. He admits that he was part of the kidnapping unit that took Karen, and Miriam stares
Nice.
at the guy that she once gave her sandwich to. He looks even younger now. He just turned 18 according to records. The cops take his shirt off to take photos of him. He looks even younger with his shirt off. Cristiano gave Miriam a few
Money-wise,
warnings
the
to work
death
with.
penalty
Another
still
guy
isn't a
involved
thing.
was
I
killed by
mean,
the Marines at the ranch.
some
The
places
main
it's
boss
still a
that ordered the
thing.
kill was a guy by the name of El Larry. El
I know
Larry
some
was
states
the one
still
that
have
took
it as a
most of the
thing.
money. El Larry was
Some
ruthless,
states are
according to
against it,
Cristiano.
yeah.
He would order kidnappees to be killed and cooked in a giant steel pot. His
I
favorite
had
thing
family
was
in
to just
Florida
make
tell me
everyone
that
decapitate everyone. They
apparently
would also do this
it's
thing where they would
something
get
that
the
they're
kidnappees and make
reintroducing.
them fight to the death, gladiator style, and last one standing gets to go home. But most of the time, they don't get to go home. With every line of aggressive questioning from the police, Cristiano would ask for his mom, and he would constantly state to the officers that he's hungry. Miriam was watching all of this in a separate room. She could hear and see them, and she would walk into the interrogation room, stare at this kid who killed her daughter, and hand over her lunch that she brought for herself. Later, the police were so confused by Miriam, and they asked her, "Why would you do that?" And she said, "He's a child. No matter what he did, when I heard him saying he was hungry, it was like I heard my own child." And I know a lot of people might be confused, but I think this has a lot to do with the context of they all grew up in an area where a lot of the kids didn't have a lot to eat. And so I think it's just this motherly instinct that comes out. I think it also goes back to probably, given the circumstances, most of these kids would not have joined a cartel. That doesn't excuse anything that cartels
shouldn't
do,
excuse it.
but it does seem like most of these people would
Ma'am.
not have joined the cartels if they had any other options.
This is like probably the most mother of a story I've ever heard.
In every aspect. Yeah, and she is a deeply flawed character later, we'll see, but I mean, what can we say when Cristiano and the others are responsible for all the other children dying in the area? Yeah, he's a child, but so is everybody else. At the time, Miriam's son, Luis, felt like his entire generation, his age group, was being exterminated. That's what it felt like. They're being exterminated by the cartels. Either they join the cartels because they have no choice, and they die in a battle that they never had skin in the game for, or more often than not, they just vanish because of the cartels. He would think of a former classmate, remember them, want to reach out to them, and realize they had gone missing. That happened way too often. But all the pieces are coming together. With Sama and Cristiano's story, as well as some of the other survivors from that night, Miriam comes out with a longer list, a hit list. El Flaco, the florist, El Mario, El Chapra, El Kike is the young man that allegedly pulled the rope that killed Karen. Soto, a former sex worker that is now dating El Kike. And a woman named La Machora, that's her nickname. Most of these are nicknames because they don't use their real names. She is the woman that beat Karen for being pretty. They're all on Miriam's list, and they're all involved in killing her daughter. And one by one, Miriam is going to take them down because to her, she said, fear is just another word. If there is
Music's
someone
coming up.
whoever waited, tied to a weight. So whoever left this for them wanted to make sure that they got it and they knew it was for them and it didn't get swept away in the wind. They open up the letter and it's like a stalker's confession, a very long list of every coming and going out of the house, what time Ernesto goes to work, what he ate at the local coffee shop, where he likes to grab lunch after work. Every little detail about his every little day was broken down and logged. Clearly, someone is watching him very intently, and at the very bottom of the letter, it reads, if you wish not to be kidnapped, call this number. Before the couple call the number, they call Miriam. That seems like the best person who would know what to do. She tells them over the phone, I have a plan. I will drop off the money to the kidnappers. What? Are you insane, Mom? What do you think they want an old woman for? They'll take the money and they'll let me go.
This is spite,
The
revenge.
negotiations begin between Miriam and the Zetas.
Spite,
Miriam
vengeance.
haggled on getting the ransom down.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get a ransom before they even kidnap him. Because they're like, less work. Yeah.
Crazy.
What?
They're like, if you don't pay it, we're going to kidnap you. You're going to have to pay it anyway if you want to live. So just pay it now. But that doesn't even mean that they're not going to kidnap. Don't be such an asshole. She's saying this to the Zetas. And just like that, it's settled. Miriam is going to drop off the money and hopefully she'll come back. The fear they have is they're going to take the money and kill Miriam for the hell of it. Or kidnap her and then ask for more ransom, but they clearly don't have more money, so then she's going to get killed anyway. Azalea tries to stop her mom. Please, Mom, this isn't even concerning you. This is our responsibility. It's him they want. What do they want with an old woman like me? And besides, if they try to take me, I'm not going to let them. She flashes her little pistol in her jacket pocket. And before Miriam heads out,
Grandma's got
she
a
turns
gun.
to her eldest daughter and tells her, if I'm not back in 15 minutes, pack your things, take Karen, and go to the U.S. Miriam drives to the abandoned gas station. There's 3 SUVs waiting for her. There's nobody else out. There's curfew. Nobody's driving around. Miriam parks her car near one of the cars, rolls down her window, and a masked man is sitting in the seat. Leave the cash over there on top of one of the empty pumps. Miriam glances over. They want her to get out of the car. They want her to place the cash at the empty pump. Miriam tosses the bag of cash out the window, throws it, chucks it, and just drives off. She's like, I'm not freaking getting out the car. Are you crazy? Just throws it out the window and drives off. When Miriam gets back, Azalea and her whole family are in the kitchen with a bag packed, waiting nervously. And Azalea starts crying when she sees her mom walk in the door. And she tells her mom,
I apologize,
"What
chat,
you
with
did,
the connection
that's not something
issues.
we
There's
can
not
ever
much we can
repay you
do.
for." Miriam just has
I
this
can
tenacity
try and
that a lot
reset
of
the
people
connection
don't.
after the
It's
stream's
very
over.
rare.
Wait, so did he come back?
Yeah, they never took Ernesto.
I can pause if needed,
They're
if you
fine.
need to reset.
got
I'm
kidnapped.
gonna have to restart the
And
stream, and so
Azalea
it's
said
okay.
when Karen was 4, Miriam found out that she was pregnant again. So this was going to be another baby, but when they went to the hospital, the doctor said, not only are you not going to deliver the baby, but you have cancer. Azalea remembers looking at her mom's face, looking for any sort of sign that she's going to break down or that she's what's going on, but Miriam just shakes her head at the doctors. Well, I can't die. I got a young kid. Karen's 4. Louise is barely 13. There's nobody else that's going to take care of them, so. It wasn't pleading. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't like, no, I can't die. It was just, yeah, well, I can't really die. I'm kind of busy right now. I know cancer has no association with how the person approaches cancer or
Is this a
cancer
real
treatment,
story?
but to just look at a cancer
That's a good
diagnosis like that,
I'm pretty sure it is.
and have that kind of response is just very intense.
Most of the
Miriam
source
went
material
through weeks
is
of
written
radiation and
by
chemotherapy until
the
she was
grandmother
finally
did
cancer-free.
a book.
Then the doctors told her that her
about
health was
everything
declining
she's
due in
learned,
part
I
because of
think.
her weight.
Okay.
She's 5'6" and weighed more than 350 pounds for most of her life, which there's nothing wrong with that. But specifically in Miriam's case, her doctors said that she was not healthy. Miriam ends up getting a gastric bypass procedure, which limits the amount of food your stomach can hold. To give you a comparison, a regular adult stomach can hold about 6 cups of liquid and food when it's full. A gastric sleeve can only hold about 1 cup when it's full. Now, it's not a very dangerous procedure, but Azalea was so nervous for her mom, she asked her, "Are you not scared?" Her mom just said, "I feel like I answered that with a cancer diagnosis. If that didn't kill me, you think this is gonna kill me?"
The moment she becomes Hindenburg.
Now, but I think these low-ranking members, I think they're a little scared of Miriam. At least one by one. And it seems like most of them have split up. So some of them died by the Marines. Some of them are in prison. I think if they were collectively still in a group setting, maybe they would have kidnapped Miriam.
Right.
But yeah. In Mexico, you don't go missing. You are part of the disappeared. That's what they call you. The word means something else completely. It means your presence has basically been deleted. Nobody knows what happened to you. They can guess. And
Connection got chainsawed by the cartel.
Find you. And if you know someone who's disappeared, then your life is in this perpetual limbo, this torture of not knowing what happened.
Don't worry,
to them and
Chad, it
not
will come
knowing if
back. Again, there's nothing I can really do. I would have to reset my
It's said to
modem.
be a very devastating experience.
And I
up
don't
until
want to do that
Miriam,
right
there
now.
was not even a support group or a community for those who suffered from having a
Sounds
loved
like
one vanish.
you got some Spectrum
Miriam
internet.
starts her own vanishing collective. That's what it was called.
Yeah, I
Family
do.
members of lost ones would to hear each other out.
I've heard nothing
to
but the
support
worst
each other,
about
and to write
Spectrum.
letters
There's
and
not much
call
I can
and
do.
demand answers from the government. This was unheard of. This is during a time where you were told, hey, your loved one who was taken by the cartels, if you report it to the police, most likely the police work with the cartels, and once the cartels know that you've reported it, another one of your family members is going to go missing just because you pissed them off. But now, Miriam is gathering up all of the families and helping them get compensation from the government. Most of them don't even know that they qualify for compensation. The government didn't like to tell them that they did. And even when they find out, the government is like, you got to jump through all these hoops. Miriam would study the law. Miriam was here. She spent all day making calls, pulling favors, threatening people. Miriam was a threatener. Okay, she would threaten to expose politicians, to call the Marines on the police, to call the police on the Marines. She was doing a lot. But Miriam was here and she was going to help them and try and get answers. Just something. Miriam starts her journey as one of the better known advocates in that area. She was known for getting done, which means she's very aggressive. She was notorious for harassing and threatening officials. That was her thing. She told the collective,
So a regular
in numbers,
woman.
they have power. As a group, they have power. They can make people listen. She told them, not even the government knows how many of us are out here. But still, she's out here making a difference, right? And that's when her kids, Azalea and Luis, start asking her, isn't that enough? Most of Karen's killers are slowly coming down. She's tracked down El Flaco, who it said he skipped town, quit the criminal world, and was now working at a factory. She tracked him down, had him arrested. Then she tracked down the florist. El Mario was taken down. The girl from the meat shop was arrested. El Kike, the one that pulled the rope, was ironically arrested at church. The minister asked Miriam whether she had mercy or not, which is a wild thing to ask. She looked the minister in the eye and said, and where was El Kike's mercy when he killed my daughter? Miriam got El Kike's girlfriend arrested, and now the main one at large is the woman who beat Karen for pleasure. The rest have been arrested or killed by the Marines.
The top guy was arrested too?
El Larry was still on the run
Larry.
for a little bit, yes, but she didn't have as much hatred for El Larry for some reason. I think El Larry wasn't the one that wanted Karen killed.
El Larry.
He just seems to be the one
What
that's like,
kind
okay,
of
guys, go kidnap people.
Cartel nickname.
But she
El
really
Larry.
hates the girl that beat Karen for
Out of all the
Karen.
names you
That's
could have
so
chosen.
sadistic.
I guess is.
So they're left, and Miriam could.
Because that's literally just the Larry.
The Larry,
That's what her kids
yeah.
are arguing.
The Larry.
Have them handle it. Find closure. Miriam promised her kids she would stop when she laid her baby to rest. Authorities had found a few of Karen's rib bones in the mass grave at the ranch. Azalea and Louise thought, this is confirmation. That's putting Karen to rest, or at least the parts left of Karen, right? Is it not? Miriam's friends and family thought, isn't this enough? It made Miriam sick to think a victimizer would be next to a list of victims. But Margarita was dead. And Miriam thought maybe her family were also victims of the cartels. They did, in a sense, lose their sister to the cartels. Margarita became a mom at 16,
Sharing Wi-Fi with you.
and
I like I said, Chad, I don't
she
really.
didn't really find footing in her life. There
There's
wasn't
not
a lot
much
of
I can do.
opportunities for her.
This is the worst
And
it's
when
been
she
in a
came
long
across
time.
a
Holy
member
cow.
of the Zetas who was offering her money and not stability, but some financial stability, she took it.
She
And
got
her
that
whole
L
family told her,
spectrum.
it's him or it's us, because her dad is a pastor. Margarita and her new boyfriend from the Zetas try to convince her dad, no, it's love, it's love. Look, he's even gonna give you cash for a car. He throws the cash back at them and said, I don't want your blood money. Get out of here. To Margarita's dad, she was no longer his daughter. And the more time that she spent with these people, the more she was becoming like them, and the family just felt like they lost Margarita. Margarita's family eventually enrolled in the state system for victims with Miriam's help.
Maybe
to
cross
receive
streaming? No, it can't be because I'm going
At
through
the burial for Karen's bones,
Restream.
the
It's
few
supposed to
were
do that
found
for
at
me.
least, Azalea asked her mom, when is this gonna end? When is what gonna end?
It's
This,
OBS chat.
all of this. Miriam
I have
flips
lost
open
you
the
on
coffin
VTube
lid,
Studio.
pulls out a bag of bones.
Oh,
This is
lovely.
what I have left of
Oh, never mind. You're back.
You think I'm gonna
Let me
stop now?
resize you.
How long?
You immediately came
on the
back.
hunt?
2.5 years. They warned her. She had to stop before it was too late. It was gonna consume her.
Oh, VTube Studio
March
just like
22nd,
almost crashed for me
2017.
there.
3 years after Karen goes missing and was killed, 29 inmates dig their way out of the prison. They dig tunnels and dig their way to freedom. 29 killers are now free, and many of them are Zetas, and many of them are the ones that Miriam had put in prison. Miriam is rightfully terrified. They're going to come after her. She can feel it. But for once, everybody around her is a bit more relaxed than she is. They agree safety needs to be at the highest right now, which technically the police are required to protect her in situations like this by law, according to the victim's laws. Very aggressive about the war on drugs. So all the cartels were kind of laying low. Because once you do
All right.
something big,